Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising. This is your tarot reading for the week ahead. A very warm welcome if you are returning to the channel, and a big warm hello if this is your first time here. As ever, take what's helpful, leave what isn't. This isn't dogma. This is simply guidance and advice for the energies around you at the moment. Interestingly, when I laid all the cards, they came out all reversed. Normally when that happens, I turn them upside down because I'm thinking, well, the deck's just upside down. But there was a moment of realization as I was doing that for you this week, Scorpio, of maybe what is required here is a change of perspective, being able to see things in a new way from in a different light. What may have been up may be down and vice versa. This is particularly true and particularly pertinent if you're finding that you're having disagreements or you can't quite, not even necessarily disagreements, if you're not able to meet eye to eye with people. And again, this isn't about kind of operatic explosions by any means. Your approaches might be very, very different. You may find, and you'll have to kind of figure out which this is, but you may find that people around you are taking quite a practical approach and you're taking quite an emotional approach, or vice versa, that you're trying to be quite level-headed, quite practical, but those that are around you are a bit more emotionally invested, or their emotions are obscuring their viewpoint. I say this because we've got the King of Cups and the Queen of Pentacles. In many ways, this is a good pairing because they both need solid foundations. They need groundedness, despite the fact that the King of Cups represents the most mature energy within the cups. You can see that even in the turbulent times, he's got this little solid platform. He's able to ride out those emotional waters. Whereas the Queen of Pentacles, the element of earth, is much more interested in resource practicality, the home, things that are tangible, that build about this sense of security. Therefore, you're probably trying to get to the same place and the same goal, but your approaches are vastly different, and therefore there's not this meeting of minds. There is a varying of opinions. Neither is strictly wrong or right, but it does require from you at times seeing it from other people's perspective. This is particularly true in those times that you're quite emotionally invested in the outcome. It's not that you shouldn't let your emotions get the better of you, but try and understand why people are taking the stance that they're taking, and say to them, okay, help me understand why this is so important to you. That may be very, very, because it's nice because they are looking at each other. It's not that they're in this arrangement where they've completely got their backs to one another and there's this sense of impasse or disconnect. They are trying to kind of get on the same page, but their approaches are very, very different. Something that I said to Cancer, your fellow water sign, is something that applies here in less of a degree, but it's still very much there. They had the Ace of Wands in their reading. You've got the Page of Wands, and there's always a direct link as they kind of and their new energies. A bit of a reminder for you this week of, if you're feeling a bit emotionally flat, or things are feeling a little bit intense, the great foil for that, the great place for respite, is within creativity, play, enthusiasm, all of those things that the Page of Wands represents. It's moving towards things that you just find quite easily and pleasurable. That's the really, really key thing here. That might require a bit more solo time. That may at times feel like the last thing that you want to do, because there are these other demands and there are these quite strong energies moving around, and it may feel like displacement activity, or at worst, I'm wasting my time here, what am I doing? But actually, to put it into context, it's not about rest necessarily, but when we're knackered, we normally just push through things and we just make it worse. Whereas if we went off, had a nap, came back to it, we'd feel more energized. But at the time we think, oh, I haven't got time, I'm wasting my time. For you, it's more around pleasure, looking at those things. As Scorpions or Scorpios, that's really, really key to that star sign, to glean pleasure. That may be eroticism, that may be sexual pleasure, but that also may just be, yeah, whatever kind of makes us happy, that feels quite indulgent. It may feel quite indulgent at the time, but it is required. This is also said because you have the Death card, which is ruled by Scorpio here. So it's always nice to see your card in your spread. As I always say, that means that you should do what you do well. For this instance, it talks about an intensity of emotions. The wonderful thing about being a Scorpio is that we have depth, emotional depth. There, we can be quite complex characters in many ways. But this seems to be talking more around, yeah, just don't be surprised if you're feeling things strongly. And that might be the highs, that might be the lows, but it doesn't just feel like a kind of, at least it's not going to be dull. That's definitely the upshot of it. The reason that I mention particularly these intensities of emotions and the necessary to lean more into what brings us joy and pleasure is that you have the Five of Pentacles closing out your reading. Five of Pentacles is the Lord of Poverty. That may apply in a financial term, not so much to me, I would say this is, again, more to do with the emotional realm. I say that with some confidence because I'm being shown a crescent moon, and moon is more about the internal world, the emotional realm, as you may very well know. There may be feelings here of being slightly shut out in terms of a community. There may be fallings out or disagreements. Again, it's not fallings out that are born out of huge conflict, but rather the cold shoulder. Whether it's you needing to give people the cold shoulder or being on the receiving end of other people's cold shoulders, but it may feel a little bit that you've been shut out of the cold or shut out of the congregation. You see, this is a church window. And interestingly enough, this goes back to, it's an image of an anchor, that sense of security that links with the Queen of Pentacles. So your insecurities you might find that your insecurities are slightly getting the better of you this week. There's nothing necessarily bad by any means. As ever, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. It's much better to be aware of these things and to be able to act accordingly rather than being unaware and unconscious about these things and then taking it more personally. And my advice, just to reiterate, is lean into that Page of Wands energy. What gives you pleasure? What gives you excitement? What brings you joy? And focus mainly on that. That is my reading for you this week. Be sure to check out your rising sign, moon sign, and sun sign for a complete reading, rounded reading. If you're not sure how to do that, read the pinned comment below. Be sure to subscribe, hit the notification button, all that jazz. I know you get asked all the time, but it is very, very important to encourage me to keep releasing these tarot scopes. But until next week, lots and lots of love and blessings, and I shall see you then. Bye for now.